Royal Geek Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Rollison, also known as T-Roll. And tonight I am joined by my very good friends from Middle Earth. First of all, we have Justin Sandoval, a.k.a. Sandy. We also have Anthony Amato, who we like to call Shamato. Boys, we are back. We are here to review 3 episodes of Rings of Power Season 2. Not 1, not 2, but 3 episodes, okay?
Yeah. 3 hours and
because
25 minutes.
Amazon
of
decided to
content.
drop 3 of them on a Thursday, knowing full well that the Royal Geek Podcast gets together on Friday nights to record.
Yeah.
So we've had to watch a lot of
Selfish. They're so
Lord
selfish.
of the Rings content.
Yeah.
Well, they know
Rings
it's
of Power.
tradition for if you're going to watch Lord of the Rings, it needs to be over 3 hours long.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. Yeah. So that's what we are. That's what we're here to do. But yeah, how you guys doing? How you guys feeling?
Hey, feeling great, man. Feeling great. We had a good week. I enjoyed doing the recap last week, and it get me in the mood for this week. So I'm here for it, man.
Yeah, it helped really get like the blood flowing a little bit, really moving towards it. There's definitely because there's a lot of plot points, going on. It really helped us get reacquainted with some of the stuff that was happening, and just kind of like, oh yeah, that happened, kind of stuff.
Yeah. Funny story. My mother-in-law is she's watching it as well, and she said I had it. She's like, I started watching the last 3 episodes of season 1, season 1 before I started watching the new episode. And I said, well, it's not just the new episode; it's the new episodes. So now you have 6 to watch total. So there's her weekend plans.
There you go.
Yeah.
All set.
So
yeah, I think what day was it? I think it was Tuesday. I texted the group and I was like, "Hey, just to let you guys know, it's like 3 episode drops."
Yeah.
And you were like, "F me," or something.
yeah, I was
like
like,
that.
dude, how am I gonna do this? Yeah. So somehow I pulled it off. What was crucial for me is I got one of them in last night on Thursday.
There you
so
go.
Yep.
There you go.
that really helped.
What's
But
crucial for me is I got 3 of them in last
there
night.
you go. Shamato showed up a little bit before you, and I still had like 30 minutes left of episode 3.
Oh,
so.
dang, yeah.
But hey, so it's fresh. It's fresh on the dome. Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna get the best takes right now.
So listen, before we start, I just want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in. We want to remind you to please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen, and to also follow us on social media at Royal Geek Pod. And if you want to help us out, here's what you can do. If you have any friends who enjoy Lord of the Rings, read the books, watched the movies, or watching Rings of Power, please share this specific episode with them. That really helps us out. If you are new because of a friend, make sure you thank them. And please come back. We hope you enjoy what you hear.
Buckle up, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, buckle up. So we are not going to be able to adequately do a proper review of all 3 episodes. I mean, it's just a lot. It's just so much.
Yeah.
So we were just trying to discuss, do we do 1 episode at a time? Do we go by storyline? Because, there's the show is happening on different fronts. Do we go by race? I'm thinking we go storyline because it's all kind of mixing together for me.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. Although the one thing chronologically that I'll start with is we get a backstory at the very beginning.
Yes.
Which was interesting. I thought that we just dive in now, right?
Dude, so at first, my TV didn't give me the previously on. It just started.
Oh.
And so I was like, at first, I was like, okay, is this Sauron?
Who's that?
Is that Adar? Is this current?
Yeah.
It can't be current. Is this a prequel? But then he dies.
Yeah.
Supposedly. Well, it looks like it. I'm like, wait a minute. That's not how he dies. So I'm like, I was confused. So that's why I texted you. And then
I didn't know where you were at.
Because you're like Anatar or whatever his name is
Sauron.
Sauron. I was like, what the heck are you talking about? I don't even. I was like, just enjoy your cigar. I'll see you tomorrow. But yeah, I was a little confused at the start. But yeah, let's talk about that very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, at first I was a little confused as well, but then I saw that the little title card came on, and it said a location. I forgot the location, but then it said a certain time during the Second Age, which I knew was before where we left off in the last season.
Yeah.
And but I was like, but how much? I think we're still in. I think we're in the Third Age or something. I don't know. I didn't remember exactly where we're at, but I think we're in the Third Age. I think.
I think the creation of Mordor is the beginning of the Third Age.
Okay, cool, great. So then I was like, okay. So then then we see a bunch of orcs and Adar again, and then some random dude. Like,
Yeah.
And that's not Charlie Vickers, right?
no, it was not.
No way.
Right, no.
Sauron, like the guy that plays Sauron.
Correct, yeah, it was not him.
Because that's another thing I was confused with. Like,
Yeah, who's this dude? Like, we
Yeah.
haven't seen him before. Yeah.
yeah,
And I don't know. I thought it was cool. Like he was he was laying claim to the orcs and trying to lead in prosperity, and they're like doubting him and stuff. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, this is Sauron. Like this is actually like because he's always been a badass, right? Like he's always
Yeah.
been the guy who has all the answers, like powerful, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and it always just was like a foregone conclusion that all the orcs were just gonna follow him
no
essentially.
matter what. Yeah, but they had like actual like personalities of declining him.
Yeah. Which actually there was multiple times where you were like getting like a little more,
they're snarky, like.
well, a little bit snarky. It was almost like, to tell you the truth, it was almost like a little bit. They were trying to add a little bit like the battle droids in like Clone Wars, where you start to get like, because in the prequels it's just like they're pretty bland
Dry,
overall, but in the Clone Wars they start to develop a little bit of personalities and things like
Right.
that.
yeah.
So you were starting to see that, and like even like some relationship type stuff. Later on, you get to
Dude,
see.
you see a orc baby.
I know.
we
yeah, I
didn't
I know.
see
That was not on my bingo card.
I
No.
did not
Yeah.
expect that. Freaked me out.
Yeah.
I've always wondered how they
What goes on there? Yeah.
reproduce.
Yeah. But yeah, so
Dude,
and then
what was that,
And then Adar, he's like goes to crown him, and then just like,
Dude, I saw it coming. Did you guys see it coming?
no, I didn't. I thought Adar was gonna put it on his head because
No way, dude. All those spikes.
I don't know, man. That's what his crown is, though. That's
yeah,
like,
that is what his crown is.
yeah. And then he just like impales his head, and then they all just gang up on him, and then he bleeds out, and then it was pretty cool. What like his blood leaches onto a rat, and then
Well,
he
hold
gets
on.
Yes.
Before that, he like.
oh, he lets out a big flash and freezes
Yeah.
everything.
So what exactly is Sauron? Like he's not.
He's power incarnate.
Incarnate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he just his power being that is, not really truly mortal.
Right.
It's a very, there's a lot of like shadow about what he kind of is in general.
Agree.
And I mean, it makes sense when you think of what happens to him later on. What we see from him that he is supposedly killed and then destroyed, and then
Yeah.
comes back and things like that. So
As an eye, right? Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So you get to see, you kind of get reminded in this that he is not really attached to one single mortal form or anything like that, and that he can shift and change. And he's actually sort of connected to like another plane of existence as well. That's has something to do with the rings and stuff like that. And that's one of the reasons why when humans wear, or man or anyone else wears one of the rings, that they go invisible, is because they're technically, what's happening is they're being sort of pulled into this
Like
other
another
realm.
dimension or something. Wow. That's pretty wild.
that is pretty cool actually. I like
Yeah.
that.
I did always wonder how that works.
So, for example, and that's also why, for example, when Sauron is wearing the ring in the beginning of the first movie, he is not invisible.
Right, because he's part of that realm, probably.
Yeah, he is a being of that realm.
Okay.
yeah, okay. So yeah, he like his dark matter blood
Yeah.
like kills a rat. You feel for this rat. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Oh yeah,
to
it's a little, it's kind of messed up.
grim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It like chokes it out.
And then
too.
like a centipede bug.
Yeah,
And then he's
Yeah.
like just crawling.
yeah,
hitches a ride to this wheel.
And
that
thank
goes
God
on.
we didn't see it.
yeah.
I want to see it.
Yeah,
Nah,
this
I
is this
did
is
not
when we
see that.
this is when we find out that there's actually a crossover between the MCU
Oh gosh.
and Lord of the Rings is actually Venom.
Symbiote. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of looked like that for sure.
For sure. For sure.
But it does make me wonder, like, how Charlie Vickers' face specifically, like, because he looked different. Like, that's the one thing.
Well, I mean, it was a lady. He like devoured.
Yeah, that's
right?
another thing.
But like, lady, I don't know, man.
He eats
if you-
her, I presume.
I mean, I would assume so.
I mean,
I think he like consumes her and then
Yeah,
like,
and then
changes
changes his
into
form.
a man
to
version of the woman, and I
Yeah.
think that's what he came up with. His
Yeah, I think that's what kind of happens there, and that's how he becomes Halbrand. Yeah,
I did enjoy the story of how he meets this
this older man, and
Which kind of felt like he was. I don't know.
He was playing him. Trust me.
You think he was playing the whole time?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Like Sauron he's a trickster, man. He's like obviously what we see later on in episode 3 with Celebrimbor. Like he is a very calculated.
I will
know,
say
man.
I think there were like they've shown that there were moments of him like there were doubts that he had, I believe. Where there were definitely moments towards the end of the first season with him and his relationship with Galadriel, where you're almost like he wanted more. I mean, yes, he might have wanted power, but there was a little something extra that he wanted too. He wanted Galadriel at his side with that power. So it was kind of at that moment I feel like he was almost like this. You can actually probably almost maybe blame that old man for the rise of Sauron, because I think at that moment, like you could think of, he could have just drifted off into nothingness for at least a little while longer before he found his path. This old man essentially, like, it's like, pick it up.
Yeah,
you just got to move.
My thing is, and again, maybe I'm just so easy that he tricked me too, but. Who is this old man? This old man is no threat to him.
No.
So what's the benefit? What's the benefit even of getting in that boat? In my opinion, if you're Sauron, like what?
Yeah. I
What-
mean,
what benefit is there? That's why I think like he was actually second guessing a little bit.
well, I mean, he did point out like the old man was like that way is death, and then this way is like to a new future. So maybe that sparked interest in Sauron. Like, hey,
That's
it's
a
like,
big stretch.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't
Well,
know.
I think in that moment, it was almost like that's kind of what I was saying, is like he was kind of lost and he was willing to be, just lost for a little while.
Yeah.
Whether he would have found his way back or not is another thing. But I think at that moment, he needed someone to push him back.
I don't think he was actually playing him. I think he was really second guessing. That's my stance.
Now,
Gotcha.
So you're wrong, Justin. I'm
Probably,
definitively
for
saying
sure.
it now.
For sure.
Yeah. Maybe to get off your phone, you could focus more and
Oh,
be right about this.
Is that?
Yeah, for all of our listeners at home.
I have notes here that I pulled up. That's
yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
But yes. Anyway.
Just messing.
But no. It was. I mean, it was a cool opening sequence. I thought it was a good way to kick it off, and then it just like jumps back in right to where we left off with season 1. With like, was it Galadriel? Right. That's what we went to after that.
Yeah, she's like chasing Elrond.
Yeah.
I don't remember how he has the rings in this current sense, but he does.
I don't think they didn't. I don't know.
And another thing, I couldn't tell like until they finally showed the rings. I was like, well, until it was clear he had the rings in his possession, I was like, is this a flashback? Like I'm not sure. They're back in Linden, which is like London, but not. Those are elves.
Without the.
Yeah, so it's like I don't know what's happening here.
So the way you kind of say that, it is a little hard to follow at times, as far as like this, like where are we timeline wise? But then like it kind of levels out after this whole sequence.
Oh, does it? Okay.
I think so. You didn't think so?
So maybe when they're like later on in episode 3, they invite the dwarves to Erigion or whatever, wherever
Celebrimbor is.
Celebrimbor is, yeah. And like they get that letter, and then they're there. They like in my mind, in this whole
It's a journey,
world, it's
yeah.
a journey.
Everywhere you go is a journey.
Except unless you're a dwarf who have, by the way, short legs.
Yes.
And they can just get to that town where Celebrimbor is like that.
Yeah.
When it's like, I know that they're on a tight schedule
They are.
forging those rings. So for me, like that sequence was like this, and then then Doran goes back to talk to his pops, the king, and then they're back.
Okay, so
all of that
with
happened.
the pops.
How close are these towns?
Okay, so one thing you have to think about is during the Third Age, most races have become much more isolated than they are in the Second Age. So that's number one. So so another one is, so if you didn't know, like in the first Lord of the Rings, when they end up first about to enter Khazad-dûm, and there's the door that they have they have to say the name of friend in Elvish. Well, the reason why it's in Elvish is because that entrance was specifically made because their nearest trading partner was the Elvish, elves.
So it's close.
So they're pretty close. Like
Okay.
and the relationship is is relatively close as well at this point.
Yeah.
It's soured a little bit, but they're as we have seen, it's not as strong as it once was. But at this moment, it's they're still quite close, and it's not like leagues and leagues. And you also have to think during Lord of the Rings, you're going through areas that are in war, active war, whereas right now there's not that close. Or there's not that
all the wars
areas,
in the Southland.
Yeah,
Like,
everything's in the Southland that's happening. That's awful, and there's still free travel essentially between these areas, especially if you're highborn. Like that's going to be relatively easy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know. So, where were you going with that? I totally interrupted you.
no, you're fine.
Do you even remember?
No, I do not.
See, this is the problem when you have to Amazon. If you're listening, this is the problem when you're reviewing 3 freaking episodes.
Yeah.
I just went from the beginning of episode 1, which
To,
was
like,
to the almost one of the last things we saw in episode 3. So I'm jumping all over the place.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
probably not helping our cause here.
No,
So
not at all.
why don't you guys decide where we go next?
I mean, if we're gonna follow like where we were, Galadriel, tracks back, goes through the entrance, is, meeting with the High King,
High King, yep.
and Elrond, and they're having this conversation about what should be the relationship with the rings at this moment.
Are they tainted?
Yes, are they tainted, which is the biggest thing. And I think, to tell you the truth, I loved the way this scene was shot. So, like, personally, like, as I was watching it, I was like, this is really cool, because you have this moment where essentially you have a defense and a prosecutor, essentially, at this moment. It's almost like a court case in a way, where you have Elrond on one side, and you have Galadriel on the other side, and you see the High King, and as he's talking, you see the shots changing, and you see, like, the momentum from one side to the other. Because at the beginning, he's essentially, Elrond is always shot right behind the High King at the beginning of the conversation, and he's talking to Galadriel, and as she is sort of winning him over, all of a sudden, all the shots turn to where Galadriel is behind Elrond.
Nice.
Or not Elrond, sorry, the High King.
Yeah, High King, yeah.
So you're seeing these moments of all of a sudden you're seeing the weights and balances in a visual form, where you're just seeing like, okay, so he's siding with Elrond to start with, then you're seeing it shift over to Galadriel. At least how I interpreted it as it was being shot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good that you pointed out. I mean, I think that's a good moment to shout out. Like the entire show so far has looked incredible. Like whether it's camera angles or scenery or just
Choreography.
Yeah.
When Aaron Deere shows up later.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, visuals all together, man. Like hats off, man. Like it looks incredible.
So actually, I want to say something too before we go further. I probably sound to our listeners a little critical right now, and that's because I'm a little tired. And
He's always tired.
I'm always tired, but
That's
also 3
secret.
episodes, which I've already talked about. I'm not going to talk about it more, but I will say I've actually really enjoyed the 3 episodes. I've been locked in.
Yeah.
Like I don't always know what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
But I have really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I'm very positive on the start to this season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's just like continue on with like the Elven storyline,
All right.
and even if it crosses the episodes 2 and 3, like let's get to where we're at, like before we finish with them, right?
Right.
Like, and so there's like this back and forth with Galadriel and Elrond. Elrond obviously is like skeptical, right,
Yes.
about the rings. He like jumps off of a waterfall and gets away, and then he goes to we get introduced to a new elf. Was it Sidon or oh shoot, I should have
Serdon.
Yeah, there you go. And he's supposedly the wisest elf that has ever
Valinor.
Yes,
In the land.
has ever lived in the land,
Cool.
right? And
I sense that Elrond knew him well.
yes.
So that's the big thing.
And you get that. Like anytime Elrond says something, he always has something perfect to say after that. Like especially like he's like, where do you like something along the lines of like, what happens when beauty is like faced with like darkness, whatever? He's like, it's still beauty. Like you like, it's true. Like
Yeah.
you can't describe beauty in darkness if it's not beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Like so it's true. And so and he's like, here are the rings, like you do something with them,
Yeah,
right?
get rid of them.
And then like he like goes out to the ship to get rid of them, but he's
Yeah.
drawn to the power.
Yes,
And-
essentially the rings do what the rings do.
Yes.
They do what they do.
Yes, and then we get a cool kind of he kind of interrupts this whole council that's going on, and he's like, the rings, like we gotta put them on or whatever. Like he doesn't really say that, but he's like that's his mentality there.
Yeah.
And then they fall. She picks it up and puts it on, and it's like this, like the way this is shot. This scene is shot as well too. The music, all the notes are perfectly timed up, and they heal like the tree or whatever the heck that they're
Yes.
Yeah.
the light and the I when that tree was like igniting again, it looked beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, like the leaves forming the branches and then they like light up. Like dude, this was top tier television at its finest too. So,
Yeah.
trying to think, Shimano, like when you saw the rings like being placed on, right, and you had that like same like eerie vibe that we were used to from like Lord of the Rings, like what kind of like drew your attention there, like?
So I'd say the biggest thing for me is it was almost like this. It was this moment of you could tell like how you just tell by their facial expressions how much they were being pulled to the rings.
Oh, for sure.
That was like one of the biggest things. Like you just tell without them saying anything that the rings were like being essentially tethered to them, and and I think a lot of after seeing we watched the Lord of the Rings, just knowing like Frodo's journey and just seeing what it did to like someone like Gollum or something like that, you know, and these rings have a lot of hold on people. Whether they've been tainted or not is another is like a here or there, but like even in these moments without them being tainted, that they have an extreme pull on whoever they are connected to.
Yeah. And I love how when Galadriel put her ring on, and then it like quickly goes to the high priest, and he like quickly puts his on, like he's gonna lose his chance to wear it.
Yeah,
Something like that. I was
exactly.
like, dude, what the heck? I did think that was like fantastic, but
Well, okay, so I mean, in that moment, you kind of like you understand it because so you're like, okay, we know Galadriel is gonna have that one of those rings,
yeah,
and at that moment, you're left with one ring for two people. There's the High King,
Yeah.
and there's Elrond. Well, we know Elrond eventually ends up wearing one of those rings,
right.
So, like in that moment with the lore that you're almost like you feel it for the High King, and it almost is a bit of a left turn when you think about it because it's like you're expecting Elrond to take it, but it actually ends up being the High King.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it was smart for Serdon to keep wearing it. It made sense, like the wisest elf to keep wearing it. But then, like
And I don't think they would have been able to get it off his finger.
Oh yeah, I know that's true. But then, like it goes into like political, like they go into like what they need to do, accomplish.
Yeah.
To now that they're kind of out of the woods, essentially, right?
Yeah.
But what do they need to do next? That kind of thing. Where do you think this was going? Like, what do you think is gonna happen there with that?
I mean, I think in this moment, there's like there's this paradox with the elves.
Mm-hmm.
They are simultaneously there's this weird like thing with them in general where there's the elves are both supposed to be the best of everything, but they're also in a way aloof and above everything else. So I think in this moment they're constantly having this struggle of how much should we interact with the outside world in these moments? How much should we actually help? How much should we keep things to ourselves?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like the struggle of the elves all the time. Like, they're supposed to make the noble decision, but they're also supposed to be better than everything else.
Yeah.
So it's this weird like separation that sometimes happens.
And they kind of like fold back in Elrond, and like he is now going to lead a company with Galadriel to where I don't remember.
Yeah, they're going to Celebrimbor.
Is that where they're heading?
Whatever.
They're
How do
heading
you say his name?
Celebrimbor.
Celebrimbor.
Yeah. What city was it?
I forget.
Origion or who knows, right?
These words and names.
I know, right? They're all made up anyway. Like all words are made up.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
So yeah, they're going to lead a team there, but Celebrimbor, they're supposed to receive a message saying that the rings worked.
So,
Yes.
so here's I know which
What
that guy.
another interesting thing is I do like how the power dynamic that the High King plays right there, because he had these two councils these two counselors, and essentially he gives them both something they want in that moment, because Gladriel ends up with the rings being a positive force, and she ends up wearing one, but he then undercuts her and builds up Elrond by making him the lead of the party.
Yeah.
Instead of her being the lead of the party, especially because she has military background, whereas Elrond doesn't really. He's a politician. So like I think that was a very calculated move by him to even them out. He was essentially like it was a very political move, and like here's a little for you and a little for you, but none of you are neither of you are actually on top.
I'm just hearing Tony Stark just say not a great plan, because I'm like thinking like this isn't going to work.
I mean, I'm not saying it's going to work, but I think as a political
it was savvy
move,
on his part.
yes,
Okay, that's fair.
It's a good way. It's essentially how kings and dictators and presidents and whoever it may be keep their people in line.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and she's having visions at the same time, right?
Dude, she's a wreck. She's a wreck.
Yeah.
They shouldn't let her anywhere near Sauron.
Yeah,
No.
correct.
I mean, she's
boy crazy. That's really what it comes down to.
She's corrupted. She's corrupted.
Yes. Yeah.
She's got a virus.
She's thinking about the dude 24/7.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
And do we think that's Saruman? Like the wizard that she sees in her vision?
The wizard she sees in her vision.
I don't know. I kind of thought the dude in Rune was
When Celebrimbor dies. Dude, sorry for my freaking dog with their damn toy over here.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I feel like, okay, so she sees a vision of that wizard who eventually you see later on, and
that's what. Yeah, so that's the same dude, right? Or no?
I believe so.
I don't remember
The one we see in Rune.
Yeah, I believe with the.
Wait, she saw him in a vision?
Yeah.
But was it him though?
Oh, I feel like I thought it was him.
Okay.
I don't even remember what you're talking about.
She had flashes of a wizard who looked very much like the other wizard that you see in this episode, so it makes sense for them to both be the
What
same.
else happened in this vision? Because I don't remember this vision at all.
Was it the one where the trees wrapping around?
No, because that was Celebrimbor.
It was essentially like flashes. It was just a couple of flashes. There was a wizard that she saw for a moment, and some other things happened on there. And then you see that what I believe to be the same wizard who, to tell you the truth, like looks physically like a younger version of Saruman to me. Like his hairstyle and his beard style.
I think it is Saruman. Yeah.
Were very similar in my opinion.
That whole scene was also like, I don't know.
We'll yeah,
dude.
When we talk about,
I feel so helpless in doing. People are listening to this, laughing at me right now. Can you just take over, Justin? Like, I don't know what's going on.
So yeah, like we then go to. I mean, let's jump to where Halbrand's at right now. Okay, like it turns himself into the orcs, right? Like this will all connect back again. This will connect back in where like Galadriel and Elrond are on their way to Celebrimbor. So like let's see where Halbrand ends up and starts and ends up. This is where we're gonna go. Okay, so Halbrand is captured or turns himself in.
Okay,
And
why?
Why? So he can get close to Adar and leverage himself, which is not really. He's like, I know a powerful. He's basically saying Sauron. He knows himself, like, but he's not, he's trying to keep it under wraps so he can manipulate and control.
I think essentially what happened was he was aware of the fact that he was probably going to be caught anyway, so he saw it as, if I turn myself in and try to essentially become a secondary advisor to Adar.
Yeah.
In this moment, then maybe he will let me, because of my connection with the elves, allow me to go to the elves, which I want to go to anyway, and be able to just do whatever I want with the elves.
All right, fair.
So him and Adar have like a few back and forths, which they had really good dialogue.
Yeah.
And
which actually I really am enjoying Adar. Like I've actually like his character.
Is that the same actor, same look?
From last season? Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, I felt like it looked different.
Like I've actually really enjoyed his character, and
like
it's an interesting
the scene in the jail cell.
Yeah.
Like they both are doing such a good job. Like
Yeah.
Adar, like you really feel like him in power at that moment.
Like,
Even
you don't feel like he's evil. Like I don't feel like he's like truly evil.
He wants to be free, right?
Yes, he wants to be. He just wants to essentially set his his people free.
Yeah.
The only thing I
now-
can think of, I'm sorry to interrupt you real quick because it's a short thing. I'm just watching this. I'm like, dude, Sauron, or he's gonna kill him at some point. Like,
At some point, yeah,
brutally.
it's gonna happen.
It's going to
For
be
sure.
ugly, and it's
gonna
going to
be
be
So much anger.
like he's going to. I feel like he's going to. I feel like they're building up some of the like humanity of the orcs
They
They
are.
are.
to where you're just going to see him just like he's just going to be slaughtering like the
Yeah.
men, the women, the children. It's going to be everyone.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
he's in chains, and like Sauron is in chains, and that old man who's pledged his allegiance.
Yes,
to him,
all the way back
He's like,
from
I'm
the old
gonna kill.
town.
Like,
Yeah.
Sauron,
Yeah.
the Halbrand's like, I'm gonna kill you. Like when I
Yeah,
get
that
out of
was
here.
awesome.
And he ends up being like let go because he convinces Adar to let him go to the elves,
Right.
and he's gonna give him information to hunt down Sauron and kill him, like that kind of thing, right? And then he frees that one hound that's
Yeah.
there, and he kills that old man anyway. That was
Yeah.
a great
Great.
scene. He smiles. He actually smiles when he hears the screaming from afar.
Yes.
But then he goes to Celebrimbor, and he tries to talk to him into letting him in, just letting him have a conversation.
yeah, come in
and
at all.
Celebrimbor does a pretty good job at the beginning of holding his ground. Like,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
told not to talk to you. I was told to like send you on your way.
Yeah.
This is all Galadriel's fault, because if she would have been like, no, Halbrand's Sauron, do not.
Yeah, why didn't she
Yeah,
say
She
that?
didn't want to she didn't want to be like, oops, I didn't
She's-
know the most powerful person
Yeah.
I was hunting was next to me, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was that also. Also, she was conflicted because she's boy crazy. Like I legitimately, I think that's part of it. Is that at the moment she was so conflicted emotionally about how she felt about him.
Yeah.
that she was having trouble distinguishing the two things.
And so, but then eventually he does have a conversation with Celebrimbor, and
Yeah.
this whole sequence here is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think it's similar to almost like eventually like Saruman has like the ability to like, you know, essentially just talk to you and you don't think you're being manipulated, but you're
Yes,
being manipulated.
correct.
So I think that's essentially that's what Sauron is able to do in these moments.
Yes, and he's sitting at the table. He's been like, you didn't get any messages, which we know because we saw a scene of the messenger getting killed, and
Yep.
Which felt random.
It felt random until now when it's revealed. Like he's literally manipulating him. He's the one who killed the messenger. He's
Yeah.
the one who kept Celebrimbor in the dark, right? Because
How do you know that? I'm sorry.
because you see the messenger get killed and dragged off screen.
Yeah.
But you don't see him.
who. No, you don't see
So
who.
that's what I'm saying. How do you know?
I think they're trying to like. Okay, so I think the reason why they're pointing at him is because did you see what kind of packaging they put it in? Okay, so the
it was
packaging was incredibly ornate, and it would have been something that if it was a random killing on the road, you would have been like that dude would have been like, I need that, but that message was left. So it's kind of like the idea of like when you hear in movies nowadays where like you'll see like homicide type stuff. It's like, oh well, they were killed, but they didn't take any money. They wanted to make it look like it was a break-in, but no money was taken, no things were taken. Like so, it doesn't match up. Like if you're gonna kill somebody on the road and you have something that looks that valuable, you're gonna take it if the reason for the killing is to make money or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of how they were playing at it, was like, because they specifically show that it's still just sitting there, that it was not taken.
But the way they show it is that it's happening while Sauron's at Celebrimbor.
The way I took it as is like it's kind of like it was flashbacks of.
All right, well,
Yeah.
they should
Yeah.
freaking say that. I'm getting pissed at this show
Yeah.
with time, dude.
Yeah.
Because like I it looks so random.
It-
Which like you
it's-
got orcs everywhere,
so-
you got wild men everywhere.
I think that's
what
kind of
I-
how it's supposed to look. It's
so what
supposed
I've-
to look random.
What I've gathered through the series so far is that while the current timeline that we're following right now is going on, when they say stuff and they're talking about things they've done, and they show the next scene of it, they're kind of doing it to tell the story. Like they're telling a story and then like imaging it, like imagining it.
Yeah.
And so like that's what it was. That's basically what it was. Is he was telling the story like, oh, you didn't receive a messenger, and then boom, they show him like killing
Yes.
a messenger.
the more I freaking talk to y'all, the less I like this show. Like I was really positive coming in.
Well, we'll get to the positive, man. We're here. We're telling a
Whatever.
story. That's I think. Okay, the community is completely up in arms. Like, there's a lot of people that hate
Yeah.
the show. There's a lot of people that like the show. Like, it's like divided, truly, truly divided. I really do like the show. I really
Making
do.
me divided now.
And
Yeah.
I know. But I think the storytelling, I think, is where people are having disconnects. Like, if you need to read more into what is happening in front of you. Like, that's just like, I don't know. A good story makes you want to add like some of your own like conjecture
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, and I really loved how when he came and he actually was talking to Celebrimbor, you could see him just like manipulating him, and it was like, oh, you didn't get this? Well, why wouldn't that happen?
Yeah, you did all the hard work. You did all,
Yeah.
and then they forget about you. Like
yeah,
that kind of stuff.
the real
Yeah,
workers.
yeah, that was good.
The real workers don't get any credit.
Yeah.
Essentially.
You and I worked hard on this. Like,
Yes.
Yeah. And then look where
Master
I'm out.
deceiver
Yeah,
for sure.
for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
And then he like, I'm gonna be truthful to you. I'm not here to celebrate. When he pulls out that first stage wine, right? And then
Yeah.
he like disappears, and then Celebrimbor spills the first stage wine, right?
Yeah,
Like,
what a shame.
I know, right? It's
Yeah.
such a shame.
Yeah, and I feel like they really get into like the vanity of Celebrimbor. Like he's
Yes.
he's a very vain.
Well,
elf.
he said himself like he's accomplished everything in his whole entire life, and he wants to do something that changes the world.
Yes.
Like that's like he's basically what he's
Yes.
getting at. And so like Sauron reveals like, I'm like not of this world. Like I am a messenger to guide you, that kind of
Yes.
thing. Which he emerges in a new form, which obviously sells it 100%. Right?
Yeah, a very elven form.
Yeah, honestly, it looks completely nothing like Charlie Vickers, but it is Charlie Vickers. Like, I thought he looked completely different.
I think he looks just like him.
Yeah.
I think when Galadriel
Really?
shows up, she's going to recognize his face.
I don't know, man. I think he looks completely different.
Really?
I mean,
Shimano,
you
what
lose
do
the
think?
beard, man. You lose the beard, and he's got like he's extra caked on makeup, which
Yeah.
is just how elves are.
I mean, it
right?
could be. I mean, when she gets there, it could be very much like the whole like Superman effect, where like
the blonde
you know,
hair throws you off, man.
the blonde
Oh my
hair, you know,
gosh.
and then the fact that you're not expecting that person to be there.
Yeah.
Like, you
Right.
know,
And he says, "Call me Anatar," and which just translates to what was it, the Lord of Gifts or something like that, or
yeah, I believe so.
yeah.
Yeah, he called him the Lord of Gifts.
And so he's like, so basically they're like, we need to make more rings, but in order to do the more rings for man, right? They want to make 9 rings for man, right? And then or 7 rings for man.
No, they're doing rings for the or not for the elf, dwarves.
But no. But when
I think it's
Halbrand
9.
comes to him, he's like, make rings for man. But the only way to do that is we need more mithril. In order to get more mithril, we got to make rings.
Oh
for the
yeah.
dwarves.
Oh yeah. Okay. So so you're right. So it's 1 ring to rule them all.
Yeah.
3 rings for the for the elves. I think
7
it's
for the
7 for the
dwarves.
dwarves and 9,
9
for
the
man.
Okay, cool.
All right, so okay, explain to me. And he obviously wants the one to rule them all,
Of
which is
course.
what he's going at.
Yeah.
But what? Okay,
Here we go.
well, why does he have to? Why does he have to make all these other ones? I don't under.
Well, he wants the ones for mans. Why does he want the ones for mans? I'm not 100% sure, but like why? Like because he
Because-
only wants the one. He wants the
men
one.
are the easiest to corrupt. I believe so.
So I guess
is-
once the rings get on them, like when he has the one to rule them all, he'll be able
Yeah.
to control
Yeah,
each.
it'd be essentially
province
like
or
if
whatever.
you were to give out a whole bunch of money, but then you were like, oh, the only way you get to keep this money is by doing what I want you to do.
There you go.
And even more sinister is the fact that you won't even know that that's the reason why.
But in
'cause
order
you're
to-
doing everything.
But in order to make those rings for man, you need mithril. But the only place mithril is the Dwarven Kingdom.
Yeah,
So
which
what do you got to do?
Most difficult place.
Correct.
You're not
You-
just walking in there stealing it.
So the only thing you can offer them is rings of power for themselves as
Yeah.
well. To first off fix their stone
situation.
situation that's going on, which we're gonna get. That's the next storyline we're gonna go to next. But
Yeah, can't wait. The one part.
right, exactly. But then like
There's more. There's multiple
yeah,
parts. I'm just
so
sour right now.
but yeah, Celebrimbor and Anatar, they have to get in contact with the dwarves. So we're gonna transition here to the dwarves. Okay.
Okay, so first off, the doors, freaking awesome.
Oh, always.
Disa, probably the best character in the whole show.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Like
Yep.
her performance has
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
amazing.
It's been so good, dude.
So good.
Which we get when we first introduced the dwarves. They're walking the market, right? Isn't that,
Yeah,
that the first
yeah.
one? And they're like their banter back and forth is just
Yeah.
so
yeah.
great, man. I think Disa and Doran,
Durin.
are so
Yeah.
great.
And also,
Just
real
like-
quick, the way they showed how the light, like I never knew. Like
yeah,
that's
it's
how,
massive. It's massive, right? Like it's a
Like
it's a
the-
big deal.
Yeah. So for them to lose the light like that,
Yeah.
it's not good.
And,
Yeah.
yeah. And so because of Mordor and the volcano erupting, it has affected where they're at, and the stone has shifted, and so everyone's starting to run out of food because the sunlight's gone, right?
Yeah.
And so Disa is a stone singer, right? Did you guys pick up on this?
Yes.
And so apparently she can move the rocks to where they need to go based on singing. And there's like this cool scene where she's like singing, beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And the rocks are shifting, but they don't hold. And Elder Durin, he's just like, it's never happened before.
In 9 centuries.
Yes, which is
almost a millennium.
correct. That's insane.
crazy.
It's insane. But then obviously, Elder Durin and Durin Jr. are having problems.
Yep.
He is cast away, and I love the scene where Durin is working in the mines, and he's getting like that, you're
that rich
you're a
boy
prince.
treatment.
Yeah, you're a prince. You're a pretty boy, rich boy, right? And then you put your hand on me one more time. I'm gonna like take it off to the nub. Like it's just.
And did nothing.
It did nothing. He ended up getting like falling on himself. Like I was just like, come on, dude.
Which I think in that moment actually was an interesting although it kind of showed both sides of who he is and kind of almost foreshadowed like his eventual decision later on. In that moment, he is super stubborn and he is super prideful, but he also knows when a decision needs to be made. Like, because even as he was being, like, he essentially got beat up. Yeah, he could have gotten up and he could have done something to those doors. Maybe he could have knocked off all of the doors that were there. But how is that a positive in that moment for anything involved?
Yeah.
Like, either he's going to get beat up really bad, or if he kills all of them, well, then he just killed a bunch of dwarves that looks bad for the prince to knock off a whole bunch of dwarves.
Which Disa had pointed out multiple times, like how he should be acting, right? Like you don't want to make this decision because you're going to look like a fool, that kind of thing, right? And so Durin gets an invite, right, from Celebrimbor. And so he does go and hears him out. And when Celebrimbor offers him a way to pretty much save his entire city, right, like everything, how do you not take that and bring it back? So, but he's like, I'm not talking to my father, that kind of thing, right? But Disa, the most level-headed person in this entire series right now, is just like, man up, go over there, and you need to do this. Like, this has to be done.
Yeah, she's a great she's that great woman who keeps her man from getting too hot or too cold, like that kind of thing. She keeps him on the straight and narrow, and
perfectly balanced.
Because I think at that moment, on top of the fact that he saw something that could save the dwarves, I think a little in the back of his mind, he was looking for a real reason to broach that subject, to broach talking again with his father without having to just be like, we need to talk, Yeah. It's like, now I have to talk to my father. I think so in the way it almost like got around some of his pride, knowing that he had to talk to him now instead of it was just like, I need to go to talk to him just because I need to apologize. Well, now there's a real reason to.
Correct. Correct. And which we do get him Durin returns, but like before he actually gets to talk to his dad, like the merchants are outside, like we need food, and then like I think his name was Navi or Narvi or whatever. He goes and talks to him. Yeah, he's like, we need to open up the royal reserves, and then he's like, well, bring them in, and then Durin comes in.
Yeah, it's almost like in that moment, it was almost like they tricked the king, to because who knows if he would have taken a audience with his son at that moment, because as they speak to a little bit later in the conversation, they're the same. They're both stubborn. They're both prideful to an end that is,
it's crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
So like in that moment, you kind of see both them kind of get, put in their place in those moments where the king like, oh well, I guess I do have to take this audience with my son since he's here. Right. And Durin having to, kind of take himself down a peg just to show up for the audience with his father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they do have a conversation. They do talk it out, and they do kind of come to an agreement that this is the way to try to save.
Yeah.
And so they bring the Mithril to Celebrimbor. and we'll finish that later. 'Cause
Okay.
that's towards the end. But so all of this is going on, and then in the middle of nowhere, we get the Harfoots. We get Nori,
Yeah,
and we
almost forgot
get
about them.
the stranger. Right.
Yes.
They're journeying. They're lost.
Dodrick?
Yes,
Dodrick?
to trying to name him,
Yeah.
trying to
Yes.
figure out, and he does give a little like speech, like a name is not just something you're given; it's something like
You know when someone
you
says it.
you
to
feel it, so that kind of
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
right?
Which is really interesting because of the fact that Gandalf, of course, we believe he's Gandalf.
We don't know for sure.
We don't
but-
know for 100% sure, but we
but
believe
we know
he's Gandalf.
We know.
It's interesting because his character has a lot of names throughout. He has this name here, he has this name here. Depending on who he's dealing with, he has a lot of different kind of names that he goes by.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting seeing him talk about how names are and how they affect things. And it'll be, I've kind of think, what if his first name in the series is not Gandalf?
Right.
And one of the names that would be interesting for him is the name that he kind of goes by. I'd say it's probably his second most used name other than Gandalf is Mithrandir, which is essentially it was a game name given to him by the elves, and then he runs by. So it'd be interesting to see if that name is dropped at any point in the series. As they're going
that'd be
along.
great. Actually, yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be great. I wouldn't mind that actually. Which when they first started, it was Nori and the stranger. We're gonna call him the stranger for now, right? I was. The first thing that came to mind was okay, good, no Poppy, because I thought that she was very annoying in the first
Yeah.
season, and then they're being followed, and then we see this other assassin looking
Yes.
character, and I'm like, oh shoot, and then it turns out it is Poppy, and I was like, okay, here we
Yeah.
go, and actually I ended up enjoying Poppy
Yeah.
in these episodes.
Yeah, it seems like Poppy is almost kind of
she's matured,
she's matured, but they also seem to be putting maybe a little bit of Samwise in there.
Yes.
Just a little bit.
He stood for
Didn't she offer a name for him? Was Amwise? Wasn't that a name? I'm pretty sure she. But it
I'm
wasn't
not
Samwise,
sure,
it
but
was Amwise. I
yeah,
think.
which would
I
make
didn't hear
sense. So
that.
he's supposed to be this wise being.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but that would be pretty funny. But I feel like they're kind of giving her that kind of sort of path.
Yeah.
Potentially.
She had a map, and
Yes,
she knew
and
the song
knew the
would
song.
lead them out.
which
yeah,
in
was
some ways seemed
clutch.
like a little it did seem a little
plot armor.
yeah, plot armor, but also a little bit ham-fisted about where they needed to go. It was
Yeah.
all of a sudden, all this stuff makes sense. It's okay, but
But it's a struggle. This journey's a
Yeah.
struggle. Before Poppy came to them, they were running low on food and eating
Yes.
bugs, and happy about it, right?
Yeah.
Just because they were starving. And then biscuits is all Poppy brings, which is she's thankful for. And then they're wandering around a desert and running out of water. The stranger can't do jack because he doesn't have a staff, and therefore
Yeah.
his magic is
unwieldy.
yes, there you go.
very much so. He's very he's afraid of his power in a lot of
Yes,
ways.
Correct. It's a lot of power, and these assassin weird
Yeah.
looking mask guys that look like they should be in Mandalorian or something.
Yeah.
They end up going to communicating with this other wizard, the Dark Wizard.
Yes.
We see that we believe is Saruman.
Yes.
But that scene at Rune. Okay, what is going on here, Shimano? Help me out here.
I mean, there's a lot of. I'm not really sure what's going on either.
So we see
it seems-
the bald chick again. We see her in her devious looking self,
Yes.
right? But then she's getting shut down by the Dark Wizard.
Yeah.
Kind of you couldn't do a job, and then here's this guy over here saying he can do the job.
Yeah, but I think kind of what they're trying to it seems like they're trying to either do one of two things. This is the beginning of Saruman, and he's eventually going to get with Gandalf, and Gandalf is going to get him on the straight and narrow. Is this Saruman? And actually, what Saruman is he's been working with Sauron way longer than anyone thought he was, and he's essentially just been an agent of evil his entire existence, and the Council of Wizards has just been blind to it forever.
Yeah.
Because of course, the bald-headed chick they were very much oh, we need to find Sauron,
Yeah.
that type of thing. So it's interesting that Like where are they going with that kind of plot line? If that is Saruman, of course it could be a different Dark Wizard, and maybe there's a Saruman is going to end up helping him at some point, and he actually was good all the time, and it's the two, that's how they build that relationship.
Yeah,
is that they build this bond by teaming up and taking over this other Dark Wizard.
Yeah, and so like this gang of assassins are hunting down the stranger, and I mean obviously Nori and Poppy are collateral damage, but they find a well in the middle of the desert, which is convenient. So convenient. And he's forced to defend Poppy and Nori by conjuring a twister tornado type deal, which visually looked stunning. To be honest with you, it looked very, very real.
Yeah,
I was completely enthralled with the CGI being great. It was good. And Poppy's like, why is he not stopping it? And Nori's like, he can.
Yeah.
And so they're flying around everywhere. I don't know. It was a great scene. I like that scene. Was that the last scene where we see of them?
I believe so.
That's the last thing we see.
Okay.
Yeah.
We see Poppy and Nori fly away.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's it.
And then it ends.
It's the summer of the Twister.
Yeah.
Once
there
again.
You go.
Yeah,
there you
seriously.
go. Glenn Powell's gonna show up somewhere. But
So, man, the whole Dark Wizard thing was like, what?
yeah, it was kind of like just
blood,
there, wasn't it?
Yeah, just
There's been a lot of weird, convoluted stuff with the Dark Wizard in general. They were very mysterious in season 1, and they've been very mysterious in season 2 so far.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
Numenors.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like the one storyline we're missing is.
I'll drop
they
one
were in
last
episode
thing
3,
about
so.
the Harfoots, and I'm happy that they've isolated
Branched
the 3 of
off.
them.
I agree.
I feel like although it's cool that there are other Harfoots, but it's like also I'm like we don't need all that.
Harfoots are good in moderation. Okay?
Yes.
that's what.
Why do you think? Although there were 4 in the Fellowship, you essentially split them up into 2s, and 2 in. Then Merry and Pippin get split as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they were hiding though, that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
So cool, seeing them use their ways of survival.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like what they're excellent
They're
at.
they're so good at hiding and keeping out of
Although
sight.
the rattlesnake knew they were under that thing.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Sure did. Oh man, what is rattlesnakes in Middle Earth? How about that? Right.
There you go.
Yep.
All right, so we have technically two more storylines. We got you want to go to Numenor first? Yeah, because Isildur. So, yeah, the Numenors pack up shop and they leave Middle Earth, or not Middle Earth, but whatever. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
Middle
they left
Earth.
Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they go back to Numenor, and they leave Isildur. But his horse is like, I'm not going with you guys.
Yeah.
Barrack. I'm
What a
not going with you
stud,
guys, dude. It runs him down.
MVP.
Sniffs him out, and he's captured by spiders. Which funny thing is, in the Reddit community, there was some guy I saw spiders in the trailer. Me and my wife are huge arachnophobias. Can you tell me what scenes to skip? And I was like, whoa, okay, it's pretty.
Yeah,
it's,
it
it's
was
a
kind of
real deal.
where they are at. You're like,
it was
are
creepy.
any of those a young Shlobe?
Yeah,
You're kind of like, what is going on there?
Yeah.
I also think it's really cool. I think it's an interesting way to place value on Isildur, other than the fact that we know what his name is and everything like that, what he
correct.
should be, is his relationship with his horse. Because in Lord of the Rings, there are 2 extremely important horses that are super intelligent and are tethered to 2 very important characters. And you're seeing it almost being like you're saying,
Built here, yeah.
You're showing that this person is very important by having an intelligent horse, going to get him, taking care of him. Because you have Shadowfax, that is Gandalf's horse, which is super intelligent, is actually, I believe, referred to as the king of the horses. And then you have Bill, the pony, who is Sam's horse, who is essentially has insane plot armor, to the point to where they let him go and then he ends up showing up at the end. He just ends up back where he is and he just follows them to certain places. He does a whole bunch of crazy things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
And so Isildur fights off the spiders.
Creepy, just like
rides off with Barrick and ends up coming across a female, new character.
Yes.
I forgot her name already. I think it's like Aaron or something like that. Like
It definitely starts with an A.
oh
Really?
yeah, it's like it's like an ER or AR or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, we don't care about names on the
Abigail?
podcast. No. It was weird. It was Middle Earthy, full Middle Earthy. Yeah, we don't care about names. We care about substance. Okay, anyway. But anyway, so then they go. They go further along and they get stopped by bandits, right?
Yeah.
And so we get some sick Arendir entrance here, and he
back.
flips in. The one flip he did through the cart.
Shang-Chi, dude.
Yes. The one he did a flip through the cart.
Yeah, that was
and, like,
crazy.
I don't even know how. Like
Physics didn't make sense.
it didn't make sense there. No. Thank you, T-Roll. I'm glad.
Estrid is her name.
Oh yeah, there you go. Estrid.
Spelled with an E, but it almost sounds like you'd start with an A.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy flip, crazy choreography here. Bow and arrows, crazy, loved it, fantastic. Yeah.
And I think one of the most important parts actually of that was you get to see Isildur's compassion as what you could eventually like extrapolate to him being a leader later.
Yeah,
is that like he has faith in man, something that like Aragon had a lot of.
Yeah.
And like you see that as in his character.
Because Estrid's like, leave them or whatever, and he's like, well, let's just give them food or whatever.
Yes.
And then it was end up being followers of Adar.
Adar, yes.
Took the brand.
Yeah, exactly. And but luckily Arendir like saves them, but Barrick gets captured, and they go to Bronwyn's funeral. Like,
yeah, they were all of a sudden you're like, what?
Yeah, I
is
said,
going
I was like,
on?
wait a minute. I thought she was alive at the end of season 1. Like,
she is.
Yeah, but then we get explained that the poison set in, so obviously the actress didn't want to come back for season 2.
Exactly.
That's all I told me.
Contract didn't get.
Yeah. She didn't get renewed, even though I would have loved to see her again.
Or maybe she just wanted too much money for her role.
Yeah, what? Pay the lady. Like, she was a key part of season 1.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but it's also like it's a huge ensemble cast. So if you have somebody who's like really asking out of their pay range, then you have like, well, then everybody else wants to be paid even, and that can start adding up.
Well, and her character. No, hold on. Her character's way too closely tied to Theo, which means like she's got like. She low on the totem pole.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna mention Theo here because if you get her out of there, you're paying a little bit of money for Theo, and this is what we get. We get Theo. Period. Right.
Yeah.
Too much Theo already.
The problem is now with her death, Theo solidifies himself more as a character, because now you have like this. Pain on his side. So now you're driving him up.
Well, I'm sure T-Roll, he's extra moody.
I'm sure you love him.
I'm sure you're all about this.
Dude, Shimada was here when I watched the third act of this.
Did
episode
you
3.
react? Like,
yeah, the whole time. I missed the whole scene.
Yeah.
The whole scene where Isildur is talking about why his how his like he's responsible for his mom dying.
Oh, drowning. Yeah.
Drowning.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, I said to Mono, I was like, "What did I just miss?" I was like ranting about Theo the whole time.
He was.
Dead serious. I was like pissed off, like Theo's even there.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
like
so
Amato,
bad.
I didn't even rewind it. I just paused it, and Amato told me what I missed.
Good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Because I was
man.
that dude. It's just too much.
He's just so. He's awful.
Dude, wet blanket.
Like
for sure.
he's just like he's a combination of like just about everything that you hate about a character when it's written. Like he's whining, but he's also self-serving. He's also thinks more highly of himself than he deserves.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the writers obviously think more highly of him than
Clearly.
Yeah.
Because that's like his character set has to be like something. Extra.
He has quote unquote problems, but then like creates even more problems.
Here's my thing, and I said it. He's like he's helpless,
Yes.
right?
Yes, he is.
And the one soul in that whole town who has the strength and fortitude to help him, Arendir.
He'd push him away.
Yeah.
So stupid.
He cares.
man.
Are you an idiot?
All he wants to do for him in that moment is essentially be a father figure
Yes,
for him. Like
correct.
that's all
Totally.
he wants.
He's just trying to take over. Like, your mom's gone. You're all alone. I'm here if you need me, that kind of thing. And then you throw me away, that kind of thing.
And we had talked about like how big that is for crossing races at that point.
Dude.
For an elf to be
Willing to do
willing
that for
to
a man.
be you know, for a man, and then, you know, essentially he's taking almost all those people under his wing in a sense. Like, he's being the protector of that city. He's being the person out there. He's trying to make he's trying to make solutions for them. And his little, like, you know, dweeb is just like, you know, just every moment is him
that whole
whining.
When Isildur's getting Beric, I'm like, dude, I hope Theo actually dies here.
Yes, I thought he might have.
And he's kind of in peril. Like, what happens there?
We don't know what happens. So Shimano, like, you mentioned something. So like, Isildur takes Beric, runs away. Theo is caught in a predicament. There's axes flying. There's large things moving, that kind of thing, right? And so Shimano, you thought it might be like,
okay, so my idea was, I was thinking it was Ents. Number one, one of the main reasons why was because, okay, so they make a very big showing of that one dude who's just randomly chopping down a tree. Like, while this is all happening, he's just like going at this tree.
He is.
Like, and why is he doing this? So in my mind, I'm thinking, like, the second time I watched it, I was like, this is really like they're pointing at it without pointing at it. In my mind,
that's the guy that gets the axe to the chest, isn't it?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So I believe that this was an Ent attack on these people, and unfortunately, I think what's going to end up happening is Theo's going to take on a Merry Pippin relationship with the Ents. Okay. To build a relationship. And so the reason why I think you were thinking,
I was thinking of trolls because, like, literally the scene before that was the trolls coming to Adar.
But why would Adar have them attack his own people?
I don't think he necessarily was. I think the trolls were like heading in a direction, and they just they kill things along the way. Like, that's what trolls do. Like, so I'm thinking, like,
I mean, okay, if you're gonna say like mindless killing, I can sort of understand
with
that.
Trolls,
but
you can back that. Like, that checks. That fact checks with trolls.
It does check in that sense. But I think if it's a random attack, maybe. But like, I mean, I think it would be interesting if it was Ents. Like, you know, and they were just like.
See, I said there was a random attack earlier, and you guys criticized me for it. So, I mean, I don't know what you guys are all about here.
Listen,
or
just sit back and look pretty. That's all.
Or maybe another possibility is, I have heard this possibility that we're supposed to Tom Bombadil is supposed to show up at some point.
He will. We saw him in the trailer.
So he has a very positive relationship with nature, and so. You know, I could see maybe this is something that is happening there as well. That would be like a secondary option. But I just feel like, I don't know, like, although it would be very possible that the trolls did this, I think with the whole situation, the way they set it up, it would make sense for it to be Ents. I feel like, although the trolls seem like they were like essentially working with Adar,
right? Correct.
And why would Adar be like,
well, you say working with him, but he throws a head of an orc to Adar. So, like, is that really with him? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like choose
tentative relationship.
Yeah, lesser of two evils kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I almost took that as the troll was like, you said Sauron's gone, yet we're here and he's not. What's the deal, bro? Like, I thought.
I mean, it was kind of like what. It was kind of like, what's the deal? Yeah, but I just assumed that Adar talked him down, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean,
and I think point him in the right direction. I guess.
I think either of those options could be it. Yeah. If I had to rank it, I'd probably say, Ents, Tom Bombadil, then the trolls. But I know other people might have other ideas.
Yeah, and then we also see Estrid, like, she's a scarred follow of Adar.
Yes.
And she covers it up with another burn.
Yes.
Which is, I don't know if that's going to play out in
Well, she was talking about how she's got some regret.
Right.
Yes.
Of course. Well, obviously, that's a huge regret.
That's the regret. Yeah.
So is she officially going to be on the side of good now? Do you think?
I think so. That's my stance.
Yeah. I do think there is some potential issues there. Like, was that her just covering up the fact that she is a follower of Adar,
or is she denouncing,
or is she actually denouncing it?
Yeah.
It seems like I would lean towards the denouncing. I kind of got the feel that there's a possibility, even though she said she was looking for her betrothed, that maybe at some
probably
point,
lying about that.
there was something that happened, and the reason why she joined Adar was either to maybe save the life of her betrothed, and then like some stuff happened there, or maybe her betrothed, gave up his life for her so that she could, like essentially like, okay, well, there are two of you, we're only going to take one,
Right.
and then her betrothed essentially like gives up his life for her.
Yeah.
And she becomes a part of Adar's army just because
it's necessity. Right?
Yeah,
Better
necessity
than
at that moment. And I think she just kind of was just kind of talking about her betrothed, like that he really isn't there. But
this is part of the royal lineage, though. She's a part. She's gonna be great grandmother.
Yeah,
of,
something
we
like that.
We were talking about it earlier. Me and
Of somebody. Yeah.
no,
of Isildur.
Aragorn.
She's gonna be that of Aragon.
Oh.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Because she ends up with the Isildur, then that would make sense for her to be.
Whoa.
You didn't think about that?
No, I didn't think about that. Not
What
at
are you
all.
doing, bro?
Not her. No.
Well,
Like,
there's clearly love interest.
Yeah, there's
there.
definitely something there.
I don't know.
There's sparks flying all over the place.
I didn't feel it.
And it's not
I
the
didn't feel it.
bonfire. You didn't feel it.
No, I did not.
Yeah.
No, I did not. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
That's
missed
the
it.
scene where I was barely paying attention and I noticed it.
There were sparks flying.
Okay. All right. I thought they were just having a conversation about their past.
All right.
That's
Speaking
all.
of sparks flying, let's talk about. We said
Wrap
we're
it
gonna
up here.
Yeah. Well,
with
we said
with
we're
the fight on Numenor. Like, what's going on over there?
no. Well, you
What?
said we're gonna. You said we were gonna come back to the rings being made.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I figured we'd talk about Numenor and
All right.
then
well,
the rings
hurry
being
up.
made.
Talk
All
about
right.
the damn eagle already. Go on.
So anyway, like they leave Isildur there and they go back to Numenor, and there's a whole like political struggle,
Yes.
which I need to know what's going on with this bar scene where they like the queen is going to look for her like elfin ore or whatever the heck that is, like that sphere.
The Palantir.
Yeah, the Palantir.
Yeah,
but then there's like this.
At the pub.
weird group of people, which
Yes.
includes Isildur's sister.
Yes.
And then like the son and
Like a secondary person.
Phaetron, whatever.
Yeah,
his
but that
name is.
guy's awesome.
But yeah,
When
that guy is awesome.
When he
yes.
comes up and confronts, I don't even know these freaking names.
Yeah.
They're all the little pompous politicians.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he just comes up and confronts him,
my queen was on the battlefield with me, like that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
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 Amazing.
Oh, that dude was
But
cool.
how
That
did
dude's
that
awesome.
group of people get together? Like I don't understand. Like the Isildur's sister is way throwing me off here. Like how she's so involved with this.
I feel like she just kind of got dropped in there. And
but how?
well, the dude that we can't name who we liked, he even says, "What do you guys do?" And they're like, "What would
Yeah.
you know
I think it's
political
Farzan.
elites do in
No,
here?"
Farzan is the douchebag who's trying to usurp
With the cool beard.
With the cool beard,
And then his son.
eyebrows. Yeah. And his
Oh,
son.
you're talking about his son now.
Yeah, that.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm talking about the dude, the north, the guy from the north.
Oh,
the
okay.
north part in Numenor.
Gotcha.
Who does the chant? Who
Yes,
starts the chant?
he starts the
It was
with
so
the Farzan. Like he starts the
cringe.
Farzan. Yeah, I know it was so cringe. But like I don't know. I was just like,
They said they were in the neighborhood because of the funeral. You
Well,
know,
yeah.
you go to the
you
local.
just go to a funeral. Yeah.
Yeah, you go to a local bar afterwards.
But I don't understand. I still don't understand Isildur's sister. I don't understand that. Like I know she
didn't
was an
understand
intern.
it.
She was like an intern
I
and
didn't-
working with the son of Farzan. Like
Yeah. And then she ends up somehow getting super close to the king. She finds this Palantir.
it didn't make any sense.
I didn't
Yeah.
understand her last season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know, and I was hoping to like her because mainly probably just because
She looks
She's
pretty.
well, because she's connected to Isildur
Right,
and his
yeah.
father, who are two characters that you like.
Yeah.
You know, like I think her father is extremely noble, and he seems to be really good,
Correct,
like
yeah.
father
Yeah,
in
for sure,
general.
for sure.
And Isildur, although he hasn't been like
Son
you
of
know,
the year or anything.
son
yeah.
of the year, but you see him like trying to better himself, and like he maybe you see that he's lost, but he's not lost in a way that is causing like trying to cause harm to people.
Right.
Like you see, he's trying to find his way, but he's not doing it in a like a bad way.
Yeah.
So I was hoping maybe she was somewhere along that alignment, but she's obviously extremely naive and extremely like.
Seems like she's like
malleable.
lost her way a little bit.
Yeah, I think she's lost her way. I think she's mourning her brother.
Yeah.
And
Which,
I think
if you would have waited like another week, you would have been fine.
yeah, I think I think essentially, I think she is she from what I'm seeing now, I'm kind of almost seeing maybe she's just a means to an end. And she's just there, like this.
Just
Maybe this is the last time we see
launching
her.
point, really.
Yeah,
Maybe?
like this was literally just to create the political intrigue that is happening.
Which there is. There is a lot of
Yes.
political intrigue. There's a dynamic in the power shift. There interesting scene where Farzan comes in her room. She's blind still because fire and stuff.
Yeah,
But
and there's it's really interesting because there's a lot of like back and forth, and there's a lot being said without being said in this conversation.
Yeah.
They're kind of feeling each other out. I think he's trying to figure out how much control he has over her.
Yeah.
Like how much influence he has at this moment, and she's essentially in what's her alignment. I think one of the big things that unfortunately it was probably the right decision for her to make, but it was probably not the right political decision to make. In that moment, I think when she chose the color of the dress, like although it seemed very like, oh, she's choosing the color of her dress, but she wasn't. She was choosing I think that was she was choosing the side that was going to oppose him. So number one, and then number two is like, it was showing
red,
and like on top of that, but I think it was also just like definitive proof to him that he could not control her decision making.
Yeah.
Which all of a sudden made him like, okay, I can't be the person who pulls the strings.
I've got to take
so
over.
I have to be the person up front.
So here's my question: if she came out in crimson, do you think he would have
supported her?
Like not even had Isildur's sister come out with the orb or the?
Did he have her come out? Like that's the thing. Like
I think he 100% did,
and I think
that was all planned.
It all seemed planned. Yes, it did.
But I wouldn't be surprised if it was like, if she comes out in red, don't make a stink.
I do believe that. I think 100%. Like in that moment, he would have seen. Okay, I'm okay with being the person who pulls the strings.
Yeah.
If I can
control her.
If I can control her, then
Right.
I don't necessarily need to be the front person.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I don't care about having the false power. I want the real power.
Correct.
So I think in that moment he felt like he had lost that handle.
Yeah.
And so then she, of course, Isildur's sister comes out, talks about the Palantir, which if you that's what is an extremely negatively looked upon source of sorcery in this universe.
Yeah.
It's also, if you remember, Pippin allows Sauron to see him in, I think it's Two Towers. Gandalf has it, and Pippin's being an idiot, and he grabs it, and essentially Sauron is digging into his mind, and essentially gets sees some things that he probably shouldn't see.
Yeah.
So that you're seeing the possible negative of what a Palantir can do, but it's not always negative. And
Yeah, that's right.
even to the sense to where I believe Aragorn has a Palantir at the end of Return of the King.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's the political struggle, and they had mentioned before, what if the eagle showed up for my father? Like, what if he shows up again? That kind of thing, right? That was apparently a big deal, and the eagle does show up.
Yes.
Which I love. I mean, I walked in, and you were this is the scene you guys were watching.
Yeah.
And the eagle shows up, and when Farzan approaches, the eagle kind of looked annoyed, like why are you walking towards me? And the way they kept moving the cameras, they kind of looked like the eagle was looking at the queen.
Yeah.
But then Farzan approached it.
Yeah.
The way that he looked, he's like, oh, I'm gonna take advantage of this.
Yes.
And as he approached the eagle, I feel like the eagle was like, I'm backing up, I'm getting away from this guy. But he used it to his advantage, and then the homeboy started to chant.
Yes.
And it just took over.
And it just took over, and then the eagle flies away. Whereas if I feel like the queen approached the eagle would have bowed or done something. I feel like it
felt
was
weird.
It's
Yeah.
false. It's false.
Yes.
I feel like
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
this is, it's false.
So yeah, I think he played that moment of essentially Littlefinger in Game of Thrones
Yes.
to a
you all
T.
said, yes.
Like you had brought
Yeah.
up. I think to the point to where every single moment was just he scripted it, and unfortunately
played out
queen-
exactly how he wanted it to.
exactly how he wanted it to, and unfortunately the queen was too
Blind.
yes, and too
Literally.
she was too righteous in everything that she was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Like-
if she's not blind, she runs over the eagle.
You would think so.
Possibly.
You would think so.
But like,
Yeah.
okay, so the Palantir falls. Okay.
Yeah.
And at that moment, like, they see what it can do, and the only reason this moment even starts is because she's righteous, because the other
The shout out, the Queen of Lies.
yes, and the guy tries to shut them down, and she's like, no, like bring your
I mourn with you, that kind of
yeah,
thing. Like,
bring out your issues to me. I want to hear you. Which you would think that's what a good leader would do.
correct.
Which, a good leader should do that. But in this moment, it ends up backfiring on her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have the moment where, Farzan is like, oh, like, no, this is lies. She wouldn't do that. Which was a perfectly placed chess move.
so clutch.
Yeah.
It was
Sorry.
he perfectly placed it to where he put the Palantir in danger while seeming like he was still backing her
Yeah.
to force her hand to where she had to,
Incriminate herself.
yes, 100% incriminate herself.
She admitted it.
There was, essentially he moved
And
her.
then rioting. Like, they immediately started rioting
yeah.
after that.
He straight
They
up
hate elves.
Murderer. Like,
he moved her straight from check to checkmate, and there was nothing like that moment, and it was done, and then everything else just fell further and further down the rabbit hole, and then he took advantage of the eagle moment, and it was just
and so now we're led to believe that, like, he's the guy who's going to be in control.
essentially
Next.
sort of usurped the throne, but in a way
we're not,
also.
we're not there. We're not quite there. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with that yet.
I think
We don't-
essentially what's going to happen is, it's not going to be a true usurping of the throne.
Yeah.
Because she was never actually crowned the queen.
Correct, yeah. She's
Because
still
that was a
regent,
ceremony that was going to be, and I believe there is some contention in the family line of how it should fall because he's related to her
Cousins.
The cousins.
cousins.
Yeah.
So it's like almost like how you should
Correct,
go. So I could see he obviously has some sort of claim on the throne, even though it may be tenuous.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And so here's where we get to T-roll, finally.
Real
closing
quick,
it
though,
out.
all that was awesome.
It was.
Like,
yeah,
that was
yeah,
awesome.
It was.
Well done.
The chess moves were
Yeah.
fantastic, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So they close out here, and the rings are being forged.
Yes.
Okay. And it all kind of leads to this. The rings are being forged. Anatar and Celebrimbor are receiving the mithril from
Yes.
Yes.
Elder Durin,
Yes.
Durin, and Disa. Like,
That's right.
And at this moment, like, we're led to believe that Elrond and Galadriel are on their way here, right? Like, that's what their goal was, is to
Yes.
go there. And the rings are being forged. Anatar is in full control now, right, Sauron?
Yes.
And they're putting the mithril into the forge.
Well, I think before that moment, you really have to talk about. Okay, so Durin specifically hands it to Celebrimbor,
Yep.
and at that moment,
Celebrimbor.
hands it like he holds out his hand, and I think at that moment you see the power struggle for a moment, and then you see him hand it over, and the biggest thing that Elrond brings up earlier about the Elven rings. And the biggest
It's not tainted, right?
is the biggest thing that Galadriel brings up in contention that it's a positive is that he never was able to
Touch it.
taint
Yeah.
those elven rings. Which and then you see him and he holds it and you can tell like that's him imbuing it with
Whatever he needs it to be.
whatever he needs to
Yeah.
do to taint it.
Okay, so is there any chance that he didn't throw in mithril? Because he had a change of hand. It goes from his right hand to his left in kind of a sneaky way. If you watch it, it looks almost like if you're trying to intentionally throw something else into the the inferno or the lava.
Yeah.
Like, I know that mithril would have a specific reaction,
Right.
but ultimately, like, I'm just wondering, like, did he? And I don't know, like,
He tainted it. He did.
no. I'm not asking if he tainted it.
Oh, if he
he's,
kept it.
No, if he kept the mithril, and he's like intentionally making dud rings for.
Oh, and then maybe
dwarves.
keeping the other one to make it for his own.
Yes.
To make the one.
Yes.
The one ring to rule
That's
them all.
because if you watch it, he gets the mithril in his right hand from Celebrimbor,
Mm-hmm.
and then he puts it in his left. He puts his hands together, and then use it. Like, why not just take your right hand and drop it right in?
Yeah.
He intentionally put it then in his left hand to then.
Ooh, T-Roll's calling a
Dude,
shot here, baby.
I'm saying, bro.
It's an interesting
I
idea.
love the idea. I love the
I
idea.
love I like the idea path of it, But I was seeing it more as that was
He was
him,
tainting it.
like imbuing it with whatever
His dark power.
Yeah, is the way he was tainting it, and I think he wants them to have the power because
So he can control them.
Yes, because power corrupts. Absolute power absolutely corrupts.
Okay.
So I think in the sense that he wants them to have that power so that they are then tethered to him.
I could concede how that would make sense too. But all I'm saying is, if I'm right, y'all remember that
Yeah, I
your
love
boy
it,
said
man.
it.
And also
I
you
love
think
it.
about in that moment, like, well, if they are dud rings, then when they take them back, it's not going to work. And they're not going to be able to fix
And get me more
whatever's
Mithril.
happening.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be like,
That's fair.
dude, what? Where's my refund?
Yeah.
I need that
That's-
mithril
that's-
back.
That's what's gonna happen probably.
That's a
Yeah.
good point. Yeah, because the dwarves probably aren't showing up with enough mithril for
They brought just enough.
Just
You
enough.
notice
Yeah,
that?
that
When he
little-
opened that case,
Yes.
it was a small, tiny rock.
small
Yeah.
little
It's like,
rock.
okay.
But I mean, I
playing it
understand,
safe.
like, I understand that that'll be an interesting, like, twist.
Yeah.
And I understand it's a cool idea, but I kind of feel like with the way that the story goes
Yeah.
and, like, the way it's set up, that it would make more sense for him to take control because he's not
yeah,
generally like
that does make more sense.
yeah, he's not like in your face take power in a lot of ways. He's
Right,
like
yeah.
he wants to take power without you knowing that he's taking your power.
I'll concede that. All I'm saying is go watch it again, and it's like,
Yeah, it's
why
why
do
do
you
you do that?
intentionally take your right hand
Yeah.
into your left, and then
Yeah, I mean I understand. It's a very like
Yeah, the way it was shot.
Yes, like, it's a compelling argument that you bring up.
yeah, okay,
And so, okay, so 3 episodes in the books, right? We only have 8 episodes in this entire season.
Yes.
so 5 more weeks of this.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so,
Thanks a lot, Amazon.
yeah, I know, right? So here's the thing, right? There are critics out there who have gotten all like 8 episodes and streamed, right? And the general consensus is that the first 3 episodes are the lesser of the episodes.
Oh,
and so
sweet. Okay.
that gets
That's
me
great.
pretty hype.
That's
for
why
what-
they dropped all 3 of them.
Correct. I mean, maybe. I mean, like, the first 3 episodes truly do feel like a building block of
Yeah.
the storylines. Like
Yeah.
it's like setting the table. That's what it is. You're setting the table for what is to come in season 2, and then where we go from here.
Yeah, I think a large part of the reason why they dropped all 3 is because of the fact that they wanted to reintroduce you to everyone on this first drop.
Yeah.
And I don't think they felt like, and I kind of agree with them. I don't know if they would have been able to reintroduce you to everyone in one drop without it feeling insanely rushed.
Right.
Yeah.
So I
and
kind
it-
of think
and
that's the
it
reason
didn't feel
why.
rushed when you're watching these episodes.
Yeah.
it doesn't feel rushed in my
You
opinion.
were rushed to get it done for the podcast.
I was rushed,
but
literally.
you didn't feel rushed.
But that didn't.
Yeah.
The writing didn't feel rushed.
Right,
That's
correct,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next 5 weeks.
Okay, we need to wrap this up. We've been going for hour and 20 something minutes. I
Yes,
think
all
so,
done.
something like that. All right, so
Next week.
next week we'll be back. Please come back for our review of what will be episode number 4 of Rings of Power season 2. We'll be happy to discuss it and hope you guys enjoy it. So please come back. Reminder to share this podcast with all your friends, especially all of your Lord of the Rings friends, and to please, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. Leave us a review. Or hit us with a comment. All of that really helps, and we can't wait to see you next week. So, with all that in mind, from my good friends Sandy and Shamato, this is T-Roll saying thank you so much for listening to the Royal Geek Podcast. We will see you next time, you peasants.